Hello, ladies and gentlemen, DGens and DeFi users. Welcome back to another Builder Spotlight, the series where we don't just talk about DApps, we uncover their vision, the grit, and the builders shaping the future of wealth on chain. Today's spotlight is extra special because if you look at DeFi, one of the most powerful primitives and one that powers traditional finance at $1 trillion scale is lending. But here's the truth. Most lending in crypto never leaves the walls of speculation. It's looping between tokens, it's isolated from the real world. Our guest today is working to change that. Joining me is Permapod, a protocol that's pioneering RWA lending on ZigChain. Imagine bridging crypto native liquidity with real world collateral from staking derivatives today to real estate tomorrow. That's not just yield engine for the actual economy. So let's dive in to the story, the innovation, and the future that they are building. Welcome, Permapod. It's great to have you on Builder Spotlight.
ZM, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, and welcome. So let's start from the beginning. Every great protocol starts with a pain point, a gap that the. So, what was the motivation behind creating Permapod? What gap in DeFi were you trying to address?
Good question. To make it simple, we figure out that most of the protocols, lending protocols, allows you to only lend and borrow crypto assets. It's a big, I think, lack of innovation. What we see, for example, this year is that more and more LWAs are bridging to crypto. This week, for example, the Security Exchange announced that it's now time to accept crypto. It's the crypto era. What we're gonna see is more and more LWA bridge to crypto, and our protocol will connect LWAs and also crypto. So the idea is to mix two environments in solely one, and it will happen on ZigChain.
Interesting. This resonates with the bigger narrative that we've been talking about in the ZigChain ecosystem, moving capital from loops, which in the current state of the lending borrowing protocol in all chains that we use, it's just a few assets looping together, a few users just looping the whole system together. But we want purpose. I think it's fascinating to see how Permapod was born out of that very vision. Very aligned with the overall vision of ZigChain. So one thing that stands out about Permapod is that you guys are not just playing the same game other lending protocols are playing. That's pretty obvious after your explanation. You're trying to expand the arena itself. So most lending protocols stay confined to crypto assets. Permapod is positioning itself differently. How do you see RWA lending transforming the overall DeFi space?
It's not a so easy one. So currently we see different kinds of LWAs. It's like a buzzword. You have the first one, which is wrapping financial assets, papers, let's say it, tokenized. And then you have also those one, infrastructures such as bridges, electricity, houses, which provide a continuous income, a rent. We would like to bring at the first step this kind of assets, the one that generates incomes. So long story short, me, for example, my parents always said that the first investment that you will do would be to buy a house, buy a roof. So the idea is simple. I would use crypto to lend and borrow to make my incomes. And then when times comes, I would be able to buy a house. This house will be tokenized. I will deposit that house in collateral and then leverage it to make more money. So therefore, the first step, if I were a user, would be to discover crypto. I would interact with the different assets, interact with the protocol and Zig ecosystem. Then, because DAO will be launched, the decentralized governance will be launched, we'll be able to vote and then decide which kind of assets will be accepted. It could be crypto, it could be also RWAs. And then after that, we'll be able to create new kind of incentives for the community. I can go more in details, but I guess that maybe it's gonna.
Let's wait for other questions. I think we can find
Okay.
the details in those questions. But that's very powerful. What you guys are doing. The one of the biggest issues that I always say with real estate is that that's like money buried underground. And even if you want to like mortgage a piece of land or your house to get some liquidity, in today's world, it's such a painful process of going through this paperwork and paperwork after paperwork, and it takes months for banks to do their due diligence and give you that liquidity that you require. So if you're in urgent need, it becomes very difficult for one to arrange liquidity. But what you guys are doing, I think it's more than just about APYs. It's more about sustainable ethical yield that actually comes from real activity. Things like tokenized real estate can get you instant liquidity, which you can use elsewhere in times of emergency on all these things, which is very powerful. Anyhow, so moving on, I see the chat is now filling up. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Write me a ZM if you guys are listening. That would be great. And we continue with the questioning of Permapod. So now let's bring it closer to the user, because innovation only matters if people can touch it, use it, and benefit from it. So for users new to this protocol, how will Permapod actually work? What's the flow for someone who wants to lend or borrow?
So at the launch, I think that few tokens will be available on Zig ecosystem because we'll participate to the growth ecosystem. So you have several ones. You will be able to deposit on Permapod and then get some interest fees from people borrowing assets. It's like staking. The second level, if you have comfy with that, is then to borrow other assets, such as stablecoins, such as Zig token, and then you're gonna leverage it. So the idea is, if you are a beginner, if you are a low risk profile, you will just deposit on Permapod and earn your yield. It's like staking. You accumulate the same token. Then, if you are more inclined to risk, you will try to borrow other assets and then interact with the ecosystem. So, for example, you will be able to borrow Zig token and then deposit them on Baldora to create the STZig and redeposit on the protocol. It's what we call a loop. At the end, you
Yeah.
are profitable. So this kind of mechanism are possible because everything is, I would say, well balanced. People borrowing pay interest fees to the lenders. If you are the lender, good for you. And if you don't repay your debt, you will be liquidated, not totally, partially. So you're gonna lose a part of your collateral, what you deposited on the protocol. So the protocol is always over collateralized. There is no bad debt. Everything is balanced. So for you as a user, if you deposit, everything is managed and source designed to allow you to withdraw your deposit every time. For the borrowers, you have to make sure to repay your loan. Simple.
Very interesting. Love it. Love it. I think keeping the complexity under the hood, but giving users a clean experience, very simple, very straightforward. That's how adoption happens. I think not through all these buzzwords and jargon that we use, but through actual usability. So I'm loving this. I think very excited about. So okay, now since this is Builder Spotlight on ZigChain, so I have to ask the question on everyone's mind. Why did you choose to build Permapod on ZigChain? What made the chain stand out?
So last year, we began to do a review of the different chains. Um, the easy path would be to choose an EVM chain and just barter and try to bring new kind of assets to this ecosystem. But most of them are, I would say, not interested by, I would say, financial institutions. They are not able to monitor the liquidity and also to onboard what I call the wealth ecosystem. So After that, there is the technical consideration. Is it interoperable? Is it possible to bring TradFi and DeFi in the same ecosystem? So at the end, we did choose also to stay focused on the community. And because Zig meets every, I would say, expectation, and because of that, it was also an opportunity for us to stay focused on the main target to onboard, I would say, RWA. It made sense for us to build on ZigChain. So until now, we are still in development. We are still working on that. And the collaboration with the Zig Foundation is very strong. We were able to contribute also to the development. So it makes a huge difference. It's not like other protocols building on the chain, which are completely alone, which are not contributing and listening to the feedbacks. It makes a huge difference. So I'm very comfy about the Zig ecosystem.
I think that is exactly the alignment that we were looking for. I think we kind of come from the same vision, connecting through ZigChain. I think that's very powerful. I have this question on the chat. If you just allow me,
Yeah,
it's from our friend Stasher. He says that please give us an easy example of someone borrowing Zig and using it to generate more yield. Stasher, I would just, as Permapod just mentioned in the last question, the basic idea is to you can go lend your zig, or let's say you have 1,000 zig, you go and uh, stake it with Veldora Finance, you receive st zig in return, then you can go and lend those st zig on Permapod, borrow 70% of your collateral. Like for example, if you've given 1,000, lend 1,000 st zig, you'll receive, let's say, 700 zig token in return. You can then go again, deposit it on Veldora, receive 700 STZig, and then repeat the same loop. So your initial capital, which was generating a yield on only 1,000 ZIG, will now have probably 3,200 ZIG, which will be generating that yield. There will be a cost involved on the lending and borrowing part, because borrowing will be done at a much higher rate than at a slightly higher rate than the lending part. So that will be a cost that you will be incurring. But the overall loop will be in such a way that you will be making more yield than your original capital. So I think this is one of the DeFi, very basic DeFi strategy that everybody uses, using two different pieces of the DeFi primitives. And I think that's an interesting way of doing it. And you can do it with other assets as well. Like you can go borrow some other asset, do something similar with that. If they are giving a APY, higher APY on their staking platform or something, you could do that as well and keep playing that loop again and again. So I hope that answers your question. Moving on, I think Permapod, you've hinted at something that's really excites people when they hear about you guys going beyond tokens into the world's largest asset class, real estate, and equities and all these things. You've spoken about eventually including RWAs as collateral. Can you tell us about how that would work and why it's important? I think we've already brushed on this question, but I would like you to put in more details into it for our listeners.
sure, absolutely. So the most important thing on a lending protocol is to make sure that assets are always backed. It could be Bitcoin, it could be Zig tokens. At the end, we want to make sure that when you withdraw, you will get the correct token, the correct asset. For RWA, it's a bit different because you are connecting two different worlds, off-chain and on-chain. On the off-chain part, it means that we have to verify that there is really a real estate. And on the on-chain part, we want to make sure that anytime you want, someone borrowing it, someone supplying it, is still the owner of it. But there is also a situation where if a liquidation happens, so a liquidation is when a bad repair is losing a portion of his assets. So in that case, a percentage of his house, for example. We want to make sure that the guy repaying the debt for him is able to seize this portion of the house, because in RWA, you can be the owner of the apartments or just of the door. You can monetize any kind of part of an apartment. So the first challenge for us was not only on the development of the website and also on the smart contract, it was also to find out the good partners. And this is where ZigChain contributed by a lot. We were able to connect with strong support with the different token issuers, which are able to provide you the stamp and also to allow you to redeem the underlying assets. So it's not about just giving you the opportunity to borrow and also to interact with DeFi. It's also to make sure that if you are in this situation, if you are the liquidator, you are able also to seize the underlying asset. So it's very important, that part. And then to go back to the initial question, sorry for that. I just want to explain the process. So at the launch, we're gonna list the main tokens, blue chips only, on the protocol.
Okay.
Then you imagine that we're gonna launch a governance, which means that users will be able to decide of the evolution of the protocol, but also on which asset we're gonna list. We're gonna do different proposals. Users will be able to select the assets. Does it provide value to the protocol? Does it provide utilities for the token? And when I say the token, is the governance token. And then we're gonna decide collectively on the future. So it's not a decision completely centralized. It will also depend on the community. And the idea is to bring verified, compliant, and ethical assets in the protocol, in ZigChain.
So to kind of make it simpler, if I am a BTC holder and I bridge my BTC onto ZigChain, I can lend them on Permapod and borrow, let's say, Zig token to use the ecosystem, and that is an option for me using Permapod.
Correct.
Perfect. I see another question. So I can use my STZig to buy a meme that does a 20x and then I pay Permapod back, right? You can definitely do that. I think
Yes,
that if the meme does a 20x, you can definitely do that. Rug, then I think that's the risk that you're taking.
not
But
financial. Yeah, you can do that.
yeah. I think it becomes a possibility once Permapod goes live. So, you don't have to worry about that. Anyhow, I think thank you for explaining the real estate part. I think we've already brushed up on this. This is a massive and underutilized vertical. If DeFi, the kind of things that we are trying to do here with Permapod and ZigChain, if DeFi can open that up, we are not just unlocking simple capital. We are unlocking opportunity for people who have never had access before this. So I think this could really go big. Now, of course, whenever lending comes up, so does the question of risk. You've already brushed up on the liquidation part, but people are looking for yield, but they also want safety. How does Permapod ensure that users can trust the system while still accessing, competitive yields?
Yeah, good question and a very important point. So everything is about risk management. So the way we work is always to make sure that everything is monitored, the liquidity is still there. When we say liquidity, it means that all the assets listed on the protocol are withdrawable and also tradable. If you cannot trade it, it means that your token will be close to zero, or you will stay with it until someone creates the liquidity, for example, or swap or on central exchanges. So the idea and also our goal is to make sure that all the users and also the liquidity on the protocol are safe. So every time that you interact with the protocol, it's completely transparent. You will see the different interaction. You can track your balance and also your positions on chain, thanks to the ZigChain Explorer. And anytime that we suspect that there is, I would say, a risk, we will be able to inform the community, block the bad position, the bad actor, So the idea is just to create, like a bank, I would say, a complete and transparent house where you can lend and borrow, and also to make sure that your assets are not exposed at risk, because it would be the best, the worst, excuse me, the worst case and situation for us. So we will always have the reserve. We will always make sure that there is what we call the TVL, the total value locked in the protocol, and anytime users can interact with the protocol. So it's very important. And the way we work is to always stay connected with the, I would say, the builders, just to let them know about the situation and also with the community. So it's not about us, it's about everyone.
So I think they say that risk management, transparency, and liquidation systems, they're not just side notes; they're the backbone of building trust. And just hearing how you're approaching shows how Permapod is just not, it's not just ambition, but it's also being built in a very responsible way. So shout out to you. Uh, I again shout out to Permapod. Give me a ZM on the chat. Let's keep the situation high and tense. uh, One thing I love about our community is we are very forward looking. They're always asking us questions on where we are going next. How do we see things happening in the future? And it keeps us on the edge as well. It helps us stimulate our brains, keep thinking how we can solve all these problems that exist. So let's talk about a little bit on the roadmap. What's next for Permapod in the coming months? Any milestone the community should look forward to?
Yes, so the first phase would be the launch of the protocol. It would be very close to the mainnet launch. So you will be able to interact with the main assets on Zig ecosystem. I think that for Q4, end of Q4, we're gonna begin to accept new assets. And for the next year, it will be the RWA phase. So if I summarize everything, I would say in October, you're going to be able to interact with the protocol, deposit, borrow, long, short assets, thanks to the protocol. And next year, we will begin the RWA era. But stay connected with us. You're going to see some announcements and also interaction. So as we say in crypto, the earliest are always the most rewarded.
No, amazing. I think we can't wait to get our hands on Permapod. But weeks to start bringing all. It makes sense if we are targeting end of year or early next year for that to be available on Permapod. So guys, you heard it here. Permapod is going live in October. Follow them on socials. Keep a track of things. I think this one's going to be interesting. Anyhow, before we wrap, let's be listeners. One thing you'd like the Zikchain community and broader DeFi space to remember about Permapod, what would it be?
I would say that Permapod is the first lending protocol allowing you to deposit RWAs on the protocol and then to borrow it, and also to become, I would say, owner of those kind of assets in case of there is a liquidation. So it will be the first one where everyone will be able to become owner of an estate without trading, but just contributing to the DeFi experience.
Amazing, amazing. I think that's the blueprint right there. Making DeFi sustainable, composable, which is very important. Having all these assets and not knowing what to do with them, it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of yield, to be very fair. And you guys are kind of bringing that, making that yield alive. So, connected to the real economy, all these speculations, in these speculations, you're actually building a wealth infrastructure. Shout out to you again. So anyhow, guys, that was Permapod showing us how the lending on ZigChain is stepping beyond the normal trading loops and into real value creation. This is how economies start. These are the areas which actually start moving money in a way that starts creating or generating wealth. So at ZigChain, you already know our thesis has always been clear. On-chain wealth is not about isolated dApps. It's about a unified settlement layer where lending, trading, staking, RWAs all come together in one composable economy. So I think Permapod is building exactly in that spirit. And uh, to be very fair, me being a DeFi degen for so many years, I'm really looking forward to the one DApp that really, kind of raises my arm here is Permapod. I'm really looking forward to what I can do with it because there are so many dead assets lying in my wallets. Would definitely love to make some use of them. So, to the community, if there are any questions, I'll probably take a minute or two to for you to ask on the chat, and if we have the answer, we'll just give it to you live. Otherwise, we'll go towards the closing. And so, your time starts now. If there are any questions, feel free to write on the chat. Uh, Permapod is also here. I'm also here. Whoever can will answer this question. But you have 2 minutes. I'm not going to waste too much time. I think we've kind of made it clear we haven't gotten a single message in the first 30 seconds of the timer being turned on. Let's go towards closing this. Which asset will be listed? I think this has already been disclosed. Initially, all the main assets that are on the chain, like BTC, Ethereum, Zig token, could be Solana and other top 10, top 20 assets that you see on CMC or CoinGecko. They are going to be available for you to lend or borrow using Permapod. But as our ecosystem goes further, we start bringing in these RWAs. They will start getting listed on Permapod as well. So the idea is to create, a system where all these assets that are generating yield can be lent or borrowed using Permapod. But we'll see how that goes as we move forward. It also depends on the risk appetite of different, investors. So we have to make sure the asset being listed for lending and borrowing are up to par with all the requirements of risk as well. We can't just, start allowing meme coins to be lent and borrowed because they are very volatile in nature. So, how Perma could contribute to the bigger picture, bringing TVL to Zig chain? Sir, I would like you to take this question if you can.
So it's I would say that the first step will be to accept Zig token, and because of the development and also the ecosystem growth, we're gonna see a TVL growth. If you use Permapod and deposit Zig token in the protocol, we will make sure that people will know it. And also, there is one dashboard which is very, I would say, tracked by everyone in the world. It's DeFi. We will see more and more TVL deposited in ZigChain, but also in our protocol. And if, for example, that's a use case, by the way, if you would like to take your profits and not losing your capital, you can also borrow stablecoin, USDT or USDC, which means that you don't sell your Zig tokens, but you are just taking your profit and expect, I would say, an X2, X3. So you're gonna what we call long. So at the end, you are borrowing, but you are also, I would say, contributing to the ecosystem, because if you want to buy more, you can do it with the same capital. At the end, the TVL will grow. Usually, when a lending protocol deploy on a chain and is doing its stuff, normally the TVL, I would say, grow up by 10. It depends also on the liquidity and other factors, but it contributes because it creates, I would say, new interaction and also creates yield. And by the way, we're gonna also communicate with other partners. We're gonna bring visibility and attract users in this new ecosystem. Another fact is the interoperability. ZigChain is connected with Cosmos, which means that Cosmos user will be also able to transfer their assets and interact with the ecosystem. As you could see, there is not a lot of activity on Osmosis and also other chains. Sorry for Osmosis. And I believe that we're going to see a huge transfer of value on ZigChain. It's my personal point of view, but
Very nice.
it is the way that's going to happen.
No, I completely agree with you. I'll just add one more point that lending borrowing protocols have a very active TVL involved in it, which actually generates yield and liquidity in the market. So it's not just like TVL that's lying idle somewhere. It's actually in motion. People are lending, then other people are borrowing. It creates that economic activity. Somebody is paying a yield to the other person, somebody is getting that yield, and all of this is what generates all this wealth and creates activity on the chain as well. So I think thank you, Permapod, for answering the questions. I think we will end the builders program here. Shout out to Permapod for being here, answering all of our questions. Very naive questions at times, but we have to work with what we have. But that was Builder Spotlight. I'm Anko. Remember, we don't just build DApps, we build the future of wealth on ZigChain. Until next time, thank you so much. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Bye-bye.